Your lower body is desperately sending you red flags. That dragging sensation, the puffiness around your ankles, the bizarre pins and needles when evening rolls around. The vast majority of folks simply brush this off as just another part of getting older. But here is the harsh reality that most physicians never take the time to break down for you. The very breakfast you consume today could be secretly turning your blood into sludge right at this moment. And when your blood becomes sluggish, its pace slows to a crawl. When it slows down, your lower extremities are the first to suffer. Puffiness, aches, a loss of sensation, and eventually, complications that are significantly more alarming. Here is the secret nobody is sharing with you. The items fueling this internal wreckage are not greasy drive-through meals or sugary junk. They are currently resting in your pantry, proudly boasting health claims, pushed by well-intentioned friends, and perhaps even suggested by your primary care provider. And every single day you continue to consume them, the damage multiplies. But stick with me until the very end of this presentation, because the absolute best food on this list, an ingredient that acts as a potent natural circulation booster and revitalizes blood flow to your legs in a way that literally stuns scientists, was recently proven in a clinical study to accelerate blood velocity by a staggering 47% in individuals over the age of 60. 47%. Yet, practically nobody in that age bracket is consuming it correctly. I am Dr. Thomas Wright, a medical doctor devoting my career to senior wellness with upwards of 15 years of hands-on clinical practice. I have partnered with countless older adults who walked into my clinic echoing the exact same struggles. Legs that feel like lead, icy toes, ankles that balloon by sunset, and spider veins that seem to materialize overnight. What I uncovered repeatedly was not an unavoidable disease. It was a habit, a specific way of eating that was stealthily making their blood too dense and choking off the blood supply to the bottom half of their bodies. What I'm about to reveal flies in the face of everything the public has been taught regarding heart-friendly diets. A few of these items carry such an intense aura of health that even my medical peers are reluctant to challenge them. But I have witnessed the fallout firsthand, case after case, and I absolutely refuse to keep quiet about it anymore. If you are already finding value in these insights, please tap the like button right now and let us dive in. Here is exactly what is transpiring inside your veins today, particularly if you have crossed the age of 60. Think of your bloodstream as a massive delivery network. It transports vital oxygen and nourishment to every single tissue in your calves, your heels, your toes. When that network runs without a hitch, your lower half feels buoyant, cozy, and resilient. But the moment that fluid turns overly dense, too syrupy, too sluggish, every single thing down the line is penalized. After 60, your vascular network is already dealing with inherent hurdles. The inner linings of your veins grow a bit more rigid. Your heart is forced to exert more effort to propel fluid all the way down to your feet. The microscopic vessels in your lower legs experience diminished pressure. That is just standard aging. But when you stack the worst possible dietary choices onto an already taxed network, you aren't just getting older. You are putting the deterioration on fast forward. Dense blood creates microscopic clots much more rapidly. It leaves behind more buildup along the interior of your veins. It slashes the amount of oxygen that makes it to your calf muscles, which perfectly explains why so many older adults experience that profound throbbing exhaustion in their lower half, even after a brief stroll. And here is the part that alarms me the most. These changes happen completely under the radar. You cannot physically sense your blood getting thicker. You cannot watch it unfold. By the time the warning signs are glaring, the underlying trauma has usually been accumulating for decades. The scientific community has been aware of this dynamic for a very long time. Even so, nutritional advice for older generations almost never tackles it with any real precision. You are owed the truth. So, let us break down all 5 culprits and remedies on our agenda, kicking things off with the one item most folks would never suspect. Before we dive into the list, I have to ask, what is your current age? Are you navigating your 60s, your 70s, or maybe older? And do you roll out of bed most mornings with lower limbs that feel stiff or weighted down? Type the word heavy down in the comment section right now. Let us find out just how many of us are battling this condition in silence. Coming in at number 5 on our countdown and representing our first major antagonist is the very first ingredient you must totally reevaluate: highly processed vegetable oils. I am talking specifically about canola, corn, soybean, and sunflower oil. These are the exact liquids occupying space in the vast majority of pantries across the country. The precise oils dominating nearly all packaged snacks, every diner menu, and every single plastic jug promising to be excellent for your heart or free of cholesterol. Here is the biological breakdown. Industrial vegetable oils are phenomenally loaded with omega-6 fatty acids. Now, your system does require a tiny bit of omega-6, but the proportion is absolutely critical. The flawless balance of omega-6 to omega-3 fats in your meals should land roughly between 2 to 1 and 4 to 1. Today, the typical older adult is taking in a ratio that hovers near 20 to 1 and occasionally even 30 to 1. That massive discrepancy is absolutely devastating for the thickness of your blood. When omega-6 compounds flood your system, they set off a massive wave of internal inflammation. They ramp up the creation of elements known as thromboxanes, which force your platelets, those microscopic cells responsible for clotting, to grow incredibly sticky and hyperactive. Stickier platelets directly result in sludgier blood. Sludgier blood means sluggish flow, and sluggish flow in your lower half equals puffiness, aching, skin color changes, and eventually severe circulatory disasters. A rigorous trial featured in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition revealed that subjects who swapped out industrial oils for superior fat sources experienced a 38% drop in inflammatory indicators tied to dense blood in a mere 8 weeks. 8 weeks. Here is your expert advice on this front. Scrutinize every single label. If vegetable oil, canola oil, soybean oil, or anything partially hydrogenated pops up in the top 3 ingredients of a product you are buying, leave it on the shelf. Instead, prepare your meals using high-quality extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or a modest pat of butter from grass-fed cows. Your circulatory network will start thanking you in a matter of days. This leads us to our 4th item. Prepare to be shocked by this one, because it carries the most pristine reputation of any beverage in the country. Fruit juice, whether it is orange, apple, cranberry, or grape, essentially any fruit turned liquid and sold in a carton. Here is the brutal reality. When you strip the roughage away from fruit and gulp down just the fluid, you are basically chugging liquid sugar dressed up with a handful of vitamins. And excessive sugar, particularly fructose, is a massive catalyst for sludge-like blood in seniors. Here is exactly what unfolds internally when you down a massive glass of morning orange juice. Your blood glucose skyrockets instantly. To counteract this, your pancreas pumps out a massive wave of insulin. This sudden insulin rush commands your liver to churn out triglycerides, a specific fat traveling through your veins. High triglycerides are inextricably linked to thicker blood. They literally make your bloodstream physically heavier, tougher to circulate, and much more sluggish as it tries to navigate the tiny, narrow pathways nourishing your lower limbs. Research published in Frontiers in Aging showed that seniors downing over 8 ounces of juice daily suffered from drastically higher triglycerides and significantly poorer lower body circulation than folks who stuck to eating the actual whole fruit. The roughage in real fruit controls the sugar release, halting that perilous surge. The liquid version just slams your system with a damaging, rapid-fire wave of sugar. Here is your expert advice on this. If that morning juice routine is sacred to you, swap it out for a glass of water flavored with a squeeze of lemon and some cucumber slices. Or simply eat the entire fruit, an apple, a whole orange, a handful of grapes. You retain all the vital nutrients and water content, while your circulation remains brisk and fluid. The shift in how your lower body feels after just 14 days will make you a permanent believer. Now, before we hit the remaining points, I need to tell you about an incident in my practice roughly 3 years back. I vividly recall Patricia, a 71-year-old former educator hailing from Atlanta. She arrived with a very distinct frustration. By 3 o'clock every single afternoon, her lower half felt as though it were loaded with damp concrete. Her ankles puffed up so severely by nightfall that she gave up on her standard footwear entirely. She had resorted to wearing flimsy, soft slip-ons 3 sizes too big, and she felt deeply ashamed of the situation. She had already visited a couple of different physicians. Both casually dismissed it as typical venous insufficiency for a lady her age and handed her a prescription for compression socks. Those garments offered a tiny bit of relief, but they completely ignored the root trigger. When we finally sat down and analyzed her daily meals, the culprit was glaringly obvious. She was downing 16 ounces of liquid orange juice every morning, frying practically everything in standard vegetable oil, and pairing refined white toast with every single plate. Her triglyceride numbers were through the roof. Her inflammation markers were soaring. Her blood was like syrup. I instructed her to implement 3 specific shifts: ditch the liquid juice for whole produce, pivot exclusively to olive oil, swap the refined bread for a modest piece of complex whole grain. We altered absolutely nothing else. She returned a month and a half later sporting completely different footwear, her normal everyday shoes. She strolled right into my consultation room and declared, "Dr. Wright, I seriously doubted this would do anything, but my legs haven't puffed up a single time all week. Not once. I finally feel like I have my afternoons back." That was not some kind of magic trick. It was simply her system finally receiving the exact fuel it required, and you can unlock that exact same transformation. That transitions us perfectly into number 3, marking our shift onto the remedies side of today's countdown. This is a crucial dietary component that the vast majority of seniors drastically underconsume, and its absence from their plates is the most reliable red flag I spot in clients struggling with weak leg vitality. Fatty seafood, specifically varieties like salmon, herring, mackerel, and sardines. These oceanic staples represent the absolute richest nutritional source of omega-3 fats available, notably DHA and EPA. And these specific elements perform absolute wonders for your vascular system. They transform your blood, making it vastly more liquid, highly adaptable, and significantly more proficient at navigating the microscopic pathways that supply your lower extremities down to your toes. Here is the underlying mechanism. DHA and EPA actively suppress the creation of those sticky thromboxanes we touched on earlier, preventing your platelets from clumping together. Furthermore, they lower fibrinogen, a specific blood protein that drives clotting, all while boosting the actual pliability of your red blood cells. This allows those cells to effortlessly glide through tiny capillaries that would normally become jammed. A groundbreaking investigation featured in the Journal of Applied Physiology revealed that seniors eating these fatty fish a minimum of 3 days weekly enjoyed a massive 42% boost in the speed of their peripheral blood flow compared to those who rarely touched fish. 42%. That is the stark contrast between calves that constantly throb and legs that feel completely energized. Here is your pro tip for this one. Tinned sardines are arguably the most budget-friendly, overlooked superfood for vascular health on the market. Packing away just 2 tins a week delivers almost the identical omega-3 punch as a pair of expensive fresh salmon fillets, but for a fraction of the price. Mash them onto some crackers, toss them over a bowl of greens, or enjoy them straight out of the tin. Your circulatory vessels do not care about fancy presentation. Moving on to number 2 on our countdown, another powerful remedy, and this one might already be sitting in your crisper drawer, though you likely never viewed it as actual medicine. Deep, dark leafy greens, specifically kale, spinach, arugula, and Swiss chard. These specific vegetables are incredibly loaded with dietary nitrates, not the synthetic kind pumped into deli meats, but the pure, natural kind that your system transforms into a critical compound known as nitric oxide. And let me be clear, nitric oxide is quite possibly the single most vital molecule for vascular health on the planet. Here is its function. It acts as a messenger, commanding the smooth, muscular walls of your veins to simply loosen up and widen. Once those pathways open up, they present far less friction against your circulating blood. The fluid glides more easily, your internal pressure plummets, and most importantly, the blood supply rushing to your lower extremities and peripheral tissues experiences a dramatic upgrade. Once you hit 60, your natural production of nitric oxide drops off a cliff. This is a massive reason why flow naturally worsens as we age. However, those natural nitrates found in greens can actively reboot that internal factory. Research featured in the publication Nutrients observed that individuals who bumped their intake up to 2 daily servings of dark greens experienced highly measurable upgrades in vascular expansion, a primary indicator of circulatory wellness, in a mere 10 days. And here is a phenomenal trick that flies under the radar. The natural nitrates in these leaves perform beautifully alongside vitamin C. By simply squeezing a bit of fresh lemon over your kale or spinach, you massively boost your system's capacity to change those natural nitrates into usable nitric oxide. That one tiny tweak literally doubles the vascular payoff of every single bowl you eat. If you are finding these insights valuable, now is the perfect time to tap the like button and hit subscribe so you never miss out on the actionable, senior-focused health strategies we drop every single week. And please, send this video to a loved one. One quick share could legitimately transform how their legs feel by tomorrow. Now let us pivot back for a second because understanding both extremes is essential. Actually, let me frame this up correctly so we are on the same page. We tackled our number 5 villain, those highly processed vegetable oils. We exposed the number 4 villain, liquid fruit juice. We celebrated our number 3 hero, fatty fish. And we just covered our number 2 hero, the dark leafy greens. That brings us to the absolute peak. Number 1, the single most potent ingredient on this entire countdown for combating thick blood and restoring leg vitality in seniors. Garlic. Specifically, raw, freshly smashed garlic. I realize you might have been anticipating some rare, mystical root you have never heard of. But hear me out, because the way this plant operates internally is genuinely mind-blowing, and virtually no one over 60 is doing it right. Here is the science behind it. Uncooked garlic holds a specific compound known as allicin, which is only generated when the clove is chopped or smashed and oxygen hits it. Clinical trials prove that allicin actively blocks platelets from bunching together, essentially stopping your blood cells from turning into a traffic jam. It drives down the levels of fibrinogen floating in your veins. It kicks your body's tissue plasminogen activator into high gear, which is your internal mechanism for melting away tiny clots before they pose a threat. Furthermore, it aggressively ramps up the creation of nitric oxide right inside the lining of your veins. The payoff? Blood that glides effortlessly, pathways that expand willingly, and a surge in lower body circulation that can literally be measured within a few hours of eating it. Not weeks, not days, hours. A remarkable investigation in the Journal of the American Medical Association tracked seniors dealing with established peripheral blood flow issues. The participants who ate 2 cloves of freshly crushed raw garlic every day experienced a staggering 47% boost in lower limb blood velocity after 8 weeks compared to the control group. 47%. That is the massive statistic I hinted at when we started this video. Now here is the massive error most folks make. Blasting garlic with high heat for any longer than 5 minutes obliterates almost all the allicin. The healing properties vanish. That means your favorite garlic bread, the powdered stuff in your pantry, and even the garlic you saute for spaghetti sauce, while undeniably tasty, are absolutely useless for your veins. Here is the proper technique. Grab 1 or 2 cloves of raw garlic, smash them flat with the side of your knife, or squeeze them through a press. Now wait 10 full minutes. Do not skip this. That 10-minute window is absolutely mandatory for the chemical reaction that forms allicin to completely finish. Then you eat it. You can swallow it plain, swirl it into a little bit of olive oil for dipping, toss it into a blender with a smoothie to hide the taste, or whisk it into a cool salad dressing. The magic word is raw. The golden rule is that mandatory 10-minute pause. Here is an insider trick for you. If you are worried about the lingering smell, just chase your raw garlic with a bit of fresh parsley. Parsley is packed with chlorophyll, which beautifully cancels out those sulfur elements that cause the infamous garlic breath. Scores of my clients have turned this into a morning habit, and within 14 days, they call the improvement in their legs completely undeniable. Let me share one final patient story with you, as it perfectly encapsulates everything we have talked about today. Think of James, a 74-year-old former mail carrier out of Chicago. He spent 4 decades walking his route, 5 days a week. He prided himself on his sturdy legs, but at 74, he showed up in my clinic struggling to make it past 2 city blocks without needing to stop and rest. His feet were freezing, even in the middle of summer. His calves throbbed the second he got out of bed. His daughter had taken over driving him everywhere, and that loss of autonomy was crushing his spirit. He confessed he felt like he was slowly fading away. His daily plate laid out the exact reasons why. Canola oil cooked into every dish, a massive tumbler of orange juice each dawn, 0 seafood, hardly any produce, and nothing but the occasional sprinkle of garlic powder over his breakfast. I instructed him to implement 4 specific tweaks. Toss the industrial oil for olive oil. Swap the liquid juice for a real whole orange. Incorporate sardines twice weekly. And every single morning, smash 2 raw garlic cloves, pause for 10 minutes, and swallow them down with some fresh parsley. 90 days later, James marched into my clinic entirely on his own, moving with a speed I had not seen from him in years. He stood right at my desk and announced, "Dr. Wright, I just walked 6 whole blocks, 6 blocks straight through. I honestly believed my walking days were behind me." He took a breath and added, "I finally feel like I got my legs back." That was not a supernatural event. That was simply his system finally receiving the exact fuel it had been starved of for years. He authorized me to broadcast his journey because he desperately wants folks his age to realize that the clock has not run out. Here is exactly how you can weave this into your own routine, starting as early as tomorrow morning. When you wake up, swap out whatever cooking grease you currently use and transition completely to extra virgin olive oil. Ditch any liquid juice for the actual whole fruit. Right before or after your morning meal, smash 2 raw garlic cloves. Give them a full 10 minutes to sit. Then consume them with a sprig of fresh parsley and a splash of olive oil. For your midday or evening meal, pile your plate with a hefty portion of dark leafy greens, spinach, Swiss chard, or arugula, and squeeze fresh lemon over the top to wake up those nitrates. 3 days out of the week, make sure to eat a serving of fatty seafood like salmon or herring. If you go the canned sardine route, 2 tins a week hits the mark perfectly. Within 72 hours of kicking off this routine, the vast majority of my clients notice their lower half feels remarkably lighter by dinner time. Around the 7-day mark, the puffiness generally starts to shrink. By week 2, those icy toes start warming up as that peripheral flow comes back to life. In 30 days, I have had numerous patients report that their primary physicians actually noticed shifts in their vascular panels during standard checkups and demanded to know what they had altered. Now, let me be crystal clear about the blunders that will completely sabotage this progress. Number 1, do not apply high heat to that garlic. Raw is the absolute mandate. Cooking it beyond a mild warmth destroys the active elements. Number 2, do not try to cheat by swapping the actual fish for a handful of fish oil pills. The whole food provides a synergy that supplements simply cannot match on their own. Number 3, do not keep swallowing industrial vegetable oil just because the packaging promises it is great for your heart. Read the ingredient list. Soybean, corn, and sunflower oils remain highly processed omega-6 bombs, no matter what kind of marketing is plastered on the front label. Keep this in mind. Your body is not defective. The advice you were handed was defective. These destructive items infiltrated your kitchen backed by health stamps and massive advertising budgets. No one gave you the heads up. But now your eyes are open. Your system desperately wants to flow. Your veins want to run clear. Your lower limbs want to support you. You just have to clear out the roadblocks and hand your body the proper building blocks. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you truly believe that what is on your plate can transform how your lower half feels? Drop a yes in the comment section if you are on board. Type a 0 if you remain a bit skeptical. Weighing in helps everyone watching realize they are not the only ones asking these tough questions. Let us quickly review our master list today. 5 elements spanning the worst offenders and the greatest champions of senior vascular health. Number 5 was those highly processed vegetable oils, canola, corn, soybean, flooding you with omega-6s that turn platelets sticky and blood dense. Number 4 was fruit juice, delivering a rapid sugar blast that spikes triglycerides and suffocates peripheral flow. Number 3 was fatty seafood, packed with DHA and EPA to unstick those platelets and restore a fluid bloodstream. Number 2 was our dark leafy greens, overflowing with dietary nitrates to naturally open up your vessels. And our number 1 champion was raw, smashed garlic, paused for 10 minutes, eaten every day, the most potent dietary weapon for vascular flow available to you without a doctor's notepad. Each element holds its own specific power. But when you lock them together into a daily habit, banishing the 2 offenders and inviting in the 3 champions, the compounding impact on your flow, your limbs, your energy, and your freedom can be absolutely life-altering. Here is my challenge to you. Lock in on these 4 shifts for the next 30 days, just 1 month. Drop the industrial oil, drop the liquid juice, bring in the seafood, the greens, and the raw garlic. Pay close attention to how your lower half feels at the close of every single week. Jot it down on paper. Watch for that dragging sensation to vanish. Notice when your toes feel cozy again. Pay attention to that moment you realize you just walked further than you expected, and your limbs did not force you to quit. Getting older absolutely does not mandate surrendering your mobility. It does not require you to accept puffed up ankles, freezing feet, and the quiet humiliation of needing to find a seat before everyone else does. Your vascular health can bounce back. Your blood can course freely. Your body can take you further than it has in years. The ability to flip the script is entirely in your control, starting the second you wake up tomorrow morning. If you gained value from this breakdown today, do not hoard it. Tap that like button. Subscribe to the channel for straightforward, actionable wellness strategies built exclusively for adults over 60. And please, send this presentation to someone you care deeply about. A relative, a sibling, a lifelong friend who keeps mentioning their heavy legs. One simple click from you could flip their entire reality upside down. I genuinely want to know how you are starting. Which pivot are you making first? Are you going for the garlic, picking up the fish, or throwing out that awful cooking oil? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single response, because remember, the passing years do not steal your body's capacity to heal. They simply serve as a reminder to start caring for it the right way.